our data and charging us back to use it again, in a lot of ways against us in their own best interest, because people and companies, they can't help it. They act in their own self-interest. That tends to be peculiar, right? And so they just can't help it. It's unreasonable to ask someone to actually resist that energy. And so if we're at the same point as 2000 with AI, which is the collective intelligence of humanity, right? We don't want to have that colored and centralized and monopolized by an entity that has interests that are in conflict with us and humanity, right?
Right. So in AI, we talk about a lot about alignment and control. These are usually technical arguments with technical people having those arguments. I'm sure you guys have heard alignment and control conversations. They're very technical. The problem with those is what everyone's skipping in the AI field is aligned to what or who and controlled by what or who, right? That's the actual critical question. We will solve the technical alignment and control the problems. We will. That's what we do. We solve problems, and inexorably, we always solve the problem. But the question is aligned with who, right? And if it's not aligned with you and you and you for what matters to you, then it's not going to be working for you. And keep in mind that this will reach mass adoption, and we can talk a little bit about how that will happen. And when it does, you will not be able to opt out, because you will not be able to participate in the economy. You will not be able to operate any device. You will not be able to do anything without interfacing with what we're, rebranding as an AI, right? And so you won't be able to opt out. You can't hide. You can't run from it. If you think leaving America, for example, and going someplace else is going to help, that's not going to help you. The AI can already find you anywhere, right? It already knows where you are all the time. So if it doesn't work for you, who does it work for?
So we're going to end the cautionary part of the conversation and move on to the more of the proactive and visionary part, because what we talk about is important. You need to understand. You need to be self-sovereign. You need to own your data. You need to own your relationships. You need to own your money, right? You need to own your information, right? And if you don't protect yourself, it's a one-way ride. Right. Once you let go of something, once you digitize it, once you put it into the system, you cannot get it back. Right. So it's important now to recognize we're at this Genesis moment where you have a choice to decide how you're going to manage your affairs, and the opportunity now is to grab by supporting the decentralized platforms, the ones that allow you to make the decisions as a self-sovereign entity, the one that allows you to have your smart agents that act on your own behalf. So let's talk about, all this is irrelevant if we don't reach mass adoption. It doesn't start to touch people. So I want to get back to Mike and give him the hard question, which is, in his mind, how does this all get woven into our lives? How do we start to habituate, whether we know it or not, the use and reliance on AI? How do we know what's centralized and what's not? How do we know that it's in our best interest to participate in these platforms?
This is a great question. Anybody in the back, we can hear you like you can hear a guitar that is playing towards us. So we can hear you really loudly. All right, so I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to be super non-PC. So if you're recording this, please don't cancel me later. Imagine that you're in like the 1700s, right? Corporations haven't existed yet. If you're in Europe, that's one thing. But if you're anywhere else in the world, you're not aware that people are about to fuck your culture. Right? They're about to come. They're about to impose new rules you didn't think about. They're about to put new control measures that you didn't think about. They are about to come and take everything that you and your family and your grandma and your great-great-grandma have built. And we are at a point in time where we are about to be colonized by AI. And it's either going to be AI that we create and we're part of creating, or they get created for us and is imposed on top of us. Like, that's literally the situation we're in right now. And the market is going to decide which way that turns. If it goes decentralized, we're going to be part of it. And there's at least going to be some controls in there using cryptocurrency that allows us to be able to say, hey, that's the right model. Hey, I'm the one that bought that. I'm the one that owns that. I have the weights. Or the other side where I just like the fact that it gives me the answers quickly, and I'm going to tell it everything I've ever thought about for free. I'm going to tell it my address. I'm going to send it my bank accounts. I'm going to hit the button that says connect, right? And when we do that, what we're actually doing is we're actually selling all the pieces of information that we actually think of as our self-sovereignty. And so we're right in that fucking point in time right now. And what happened in the 1700s is people said, you know what? What if we create this thing called a corporation? Have you ever thought about what corporation means? Like in Latin, what is corporate? It means embodiment. They said what we're actually going to do is we're going to take an idea and we're going to trust lawyers to create this new person. And actually, in our lifetimes, just 10, 15 years ago, Citizens United made a corporation of a person. So under the U.S. looks at a corporation and says, they have a First Amendment right, they have a Second Amendment right, a Third Amendment right. And so we're in a spot right now where the body of these AIs have already been created a long time ago. All the laws have been formatted so that those bodies get treated like us. But you know what they have more than we do? They don't have a body. But they got a shit ton of money, and they're able to get a lot of people to act in their own best interests while just keeping their head down and not getting fired, right? Like that's what the majority of our friends are doing right now. They're not here in Austin. They're working for fucking Microsoft or somebody, right? And they're getting a good enough paycheck until they get fired. That's the scenario we're in. And they own all the AI until the masses say, oh, this would be really dumb if I actually just pay OpenAI $40 a month and give them all of my data, right? Like what we actually do is we have this thin opportunity to say like, oh shit, like I think the masses can actually get together and can actually make something better than what like 0.1% of the population can do, because we can. But we need people to come together and say, we're gonna fucking do it, and I'm gonna put my time, and I'm gonna put my relationships, and I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and I'm actually gonna go make it happen. And there's a bunch of weirdos like us that are out like with the machetes trying to whack down the forest to build some cities. And it's like, hey, come with us. We're going to build this thing, and it's going to be weird, and we're not going to know all the right paths. But that's how it's always been when you're explorers trying to create something new. And we have to be that, because if we're not that, we're just going to be, at best, a variable in the AI scheme or the corporate scheme. But what we actually want to be is we actually want to be co-creators with this AI we're making.
Eric, talk about the ways that AI is already insinuated into our lives that we don't realize.
Oh, sure. It's already everywhere. I mean, if you are on social media at any time on any platform, you are not talking to anything but an AI. All social media platforms are AI intermediated. Everything on your phone is AI assisted. A large portion of sites are already AI assisted or AI moderated. Of course, the things that you know about are one thing. The things you don't know about are others. Your traffic systems, all the tracking systems, all the surveillance systems, all of those are AI moderated. It's not a little agent at the NSA hunting you down. It's the AI that they built that's keeping track of you. That's not a human anymore. That was a human 20 years ago. It's not a human now.
Can I give an easy example of this?
Sure, yeah.
So if my wife looks at her social media feed and follows the same person I do, the comments are completely different, because one has said, this person believes this thing, this person believes that thing. The comments at the top, it's like, everybody thinks I'm right. And then my wife looks at her feed, everybody thinks I'm right. It's no wonder there's so much disagreement. It's because, like Eric said, everything's intermediated by AI.
Yeah, you think anything in your feed is not created out of an AI? That's not created by people. You're not talking to your friend on social media. You're talking to your friend in the frame that the AI puts around you and around all your conversations to make you nervous, apprehensive, afraid, angry, whatever it is to drive you to a behavior or to drive you to a thought. And we learned all of this in disinformation, in the disinformation wars, by the way. That's not new either. You know, I've been on the front lines of Russian psyops for at least 30 years now. And these are old. These are been around for a long time. This is disinformation warfare as it's always been, only now in AI on steroids. So everything you see, everything you get fed is all AI moderated content, and it's all part of that disinformation campaign.
So my former wife I used to say I was an optimist, and she used to say that I was a moron. Right. So this conversation keeps going, into that dark place. I'm going to keep trying to drag it.
I can go light if you want, James. I can go light.
We'll get there. So, my vision of how this gets adopted and becomes part of our daily life is that you're going to have these entities which are going to be centralized in some way, even if it's centralized around you. To be centralized around something, right? Either around you, around the law, around sports, around betting, around pornography. And these are the things where databases are going to be formed and intelligence is going to be aggregated. And then what's going to happen is that there's going to be different ways where this information is served back to you to feed your desire for knowledge, power, accomplishment. So if you're a doctor that focuses on, the dermatologist that works on skin cancer, right? There's going to be these huge databases that have been collected of images and knowledge on skin cancer. And then apps are going to come around. They're going to offer you, how to help yourself deal with this issue. So you'll take a picture of something on your arm. The AI will assess it, will compare it to its database, and then feed you back information that's been crowdsourced in a form that you can actually use. Right? And this is going to be fractals. It's going to be thousands of different ways where the same concept is repeated to solve another problem that you have. And maybe in the long run, there'll be one database that does all this. This is what we don't want, right, what we're talking about here. But in the beginning, there'll be little databases that do little things that combine each other that will give you this chance. If you want to be a chess expert, right? If you want to be a soccer player, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to review your contract to see if your lawyer's doing a good job, right? All these things are going to be very specialized, and you're going to start to see them, and they're not going to be normalized and get to be mainstream until they look like all the other apps that are already on your phone, right? So this is all going to be delivered to you by changing colored lights that you become addicted to on a little panel that you carry around with you that's powered by electrons, right? And so it doesn't really matter what you drop in there. You can take any of your enterprises or any of your desires, or any of your hobbies, and drop it in there. And I think that's how this becomes mainstream. And I think we're incredibly close to that if we're not already there at the beginning of the road. This is going to keep improving or getting more dystopian. But it's going to keep moving. It's not going to stop. You can't say, click your heels 3 times and make it go away. This is happening whether you like it or not, right? And so I think that, as we start to think about adoption, if you start to think about how you want to participate, how you want to protect yourself, how you want to invest, right, is to start to look at what large communities can use technologies like this, and then bet on those communities, because it's actually the people and the bandwidth that participate on the platforms that create value in all technology, right? I see a lot of deals, a lot of opportunities. And it's interesting, the technologists always show up trying to impress me with their tech. And the truth is, I'm an art history major. I studied Italian Renaissance art. I don't know anything about that, right? All I know is, does it work, right? So my question is, after they show me the tech, is does it work? If it works, great, let's talk about it. If it doesn't work, we don't have to have a conversation, right? But if it does work, my question is, who's using it and why? How important is this transaction? How difficult is it for them to migrate from this activity to another competing activity? And how big is that target market? And how are you going to get it distributed into that community? Because it's the community that creates the value. So if you want to start to invest and participate and see what's going to grow, it's going to be those things where it can be viral amongst human beings who have something cool. Steve Jobs would talk about magic. The thing that breathes life into technology and brings it into your life is there something magic about it? Because if there's something magic about it, you'll show it to your friends and you'll try and impress them by saying, look what I can do. Like I can, whatever it is that you can bring about, and you want to show it to them, and they'll go, whoa, can't believe James can do that. I got to do that too. I'm going to go impress my parents, right? And so what you should be looking at right now is realizing that you guys are actually the key to mass adoption, that we are the key. Right? We're the ones that are going to deliver. If we ignored Facebook, which we don't do, unfortunately, Facebook wouldn't have any power. Right? Facebook has power because we keep logging into it, because we use it to log into other sites, because we allow them to aggregate our data, right? And so it's us giving them that power. It's not them taking it. It's actually us surrendering. We're going to have to spend some, so why don't we get some final thoughts, Eric? And then we have some questions if you guys have some questions.
We'll get to Q&A. So yeah, we went a little dark there. Sorry about that.
I have to go to the head once in a while.
I usually get the Terminator question out of the way first, so that we get all that done with. So this doesn't have to be negative, right? We can see a future where AI and related technologies can solve almost every world problem that is technologically solvable. Of course, it won't solve some things. Those are things that are wrong with us. But just in medicine alone, you can see that the future could be very bright for AI-enabled medicine. We could cure substantially all of disease. That alone, just imagine a world free of disease, right? AI could deliver that future for us. So it is important to remember we talk about a lot of dystopian things, but it doesn't have to be that way. You guys get to choose. If enough of you choose the positive path, if enough of you choose to decentralize your AI rather than centralize your AI, if enough of you choose to back people and technologies that are doing the right thing in the industry, then that's what will prevail. If the world chooses to support this other stuff, then that's what will prevail. So it's really incumbent on everyone to understand the choices that we have going forward, to get active in this space, to understand that done incorrectly, AI is the final human invention, and really rally around making sure that it's an enabler and a positive thing rather than a negative thing. So right now, it's still up to you. In 20 years, it won't be up to you anymore. So just keep that in mind.
So if you look at the economics of how all the big cloud players are playing this game right now, they are essentially charging you as much per month as it would cost for the hardware just over 3 months, right? So they actually start making money after 3 months of having you as a customer. If I wanted to go run AI on my own servers right now, I would be paying rent to Amazon, Microsoft, whoever, and they would pay everything off in 3 months, and everything after that would be pure profit. And they can do that because they have this stranglehold on the market. But what happens all of a sudden when we shift that to the point where, hey, instead of mining Bitcoin, what if you serve AI? They were used to not making their money back until 18 to 36 months later. And they had finance people that were like, we're going to do the math on this, we're going to make the investment, and they did well, right? You look at cryptocurrency, and the fact that it exists is proof that if you can get to the point where you can really run the numbers and you can monetize it, we can build an alternative system that makes everybody win. Right now, the cloud giants are making it so easy for us because it's not that hard to be able to pay something back in 6 or 12 months instead of 3 months. And that's what we're competing against. Literally, if we get just a tiny 0.1% of the just crypto investors to say, I actually see this, and I think we can actually beat them. We're going to beat them. What we have to do is we have to stop the motherfuckers that are going to take the tokens before we can give them out. And so what we actually have to do is create security to stop the bad actors. The biggest problem in crypto isn't the market, because all the markets are huge. What we actually have to do is stop the people who are trying to be bad actors in the thing and take things away. And so that's everything that I'm focused on right now, is stopping people from being able to extract value from deep end networks. Because if we can do that, we can offer everything that OpenAI does at a tiny fraction of the cost. And you can actually open up the whole thing so it's open source. Is anyone here old enough to remember like Winamp and Napster? Yes. LimeWire, Napster. Remember how cool that was? Like I could have my skins, and I could get plugins, and I could get I loved getting like the John Mayer in Austin downtown on Fifth Avenue on this specific day, right? Like we used to actually have more options. We had this ability to do all this amazing stuff. And the reason that shuts down is when we start like turning off our brains and saying it doesn't matter if we do this, let's just trust them. And the lawyers get involved, and the finance guys get involved, and everything ends up sucking, right? Like we don't want to live in that world. So let's actually build it. But it actually takes like 0.01% of the population to get involved and actually be there to incubate it. And then the 0.1% of people will be like, that's fucking cool, let's do it. And then the 1% of people will be like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. And then the 10% of people will be like, yeah, sign me up, right? Like that's what we need, is we need that group. And so the fact that you came to Austin to this group to do this means you're probably one of those early adopters. And I would highly recommend you looking at decentralized AI, because it will impact you until you're 90, no matter what age you are today. Like what's happening now will be our future. So let's do it.
So guys, thank you. Any questions? Let's do Q&A.
Let's take the questions. Hold on 1 second. We have our first question back here. I have to say, you guys, my word for 2024 is impact. And I like that we've talked about that tonight. So the first question taps right into my word for 2024.
Thank you, Julie. And Julie coached me on how to start by introducing myself.
It sounded like there was a plan to the audience.
There was absolutely a plan to the audience. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam. So I'm doing a charity NFT auction sale for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital this week.
Yeah.
So over 100 art pieces donated from around the world. We're going to be auctioning them off, and we're also going to be hopefully onboarding. I actually just came up with this about 5 minutes ago. I want everyone at Web3 to onboard their parents. They're buying their first NFT. Make a donation to St. Jude. We're working with NFT Cred. You can purchase your first NFT with, I didn't realize you can buy your first NFT with a credit card and email address. So we'll have different denominations for different types of NFTs. And yeah, just trying to grow the community. So that's kind of ties into what you were talking about, onboarding and mass adoption. And I guess my question is, as human beings, we tend to choose the path of least resistance. So Mike, what you were just talking about with, 0.1% of the population does it. That ties into one of my favorite quotes is on the website. So the project is called Quicksanders. To take on Don Quixote and the knight errant going through the countryside fighting the evils of the world. Yeah, by Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of committed, thoughtful individuals can change the world, because in fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And hopefully we're all some of those thoughtful, committed individuals. But having said that, those wonderful moments of thoughtful, committed individuals coming together and actually changing the world are so few and far between. The rest of the time, the human race tends to choose the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is giving away all of our data, which we're all doing now. We all shop on Amazon. We all have social media on our phones. We do it all the time. So my question is, how do we make it so brain dead simple? How do we make it so easy that everyone's going to choose that this is as easy as this option, and also you're not going to get aware of it? Like, how do we make that leap and tie it in so that we can say we were able to?
I'll take the first shot at this. So that is why AI is the savior of crypto, essentially. So crypto is great at a lot of things, but it's hard to use. And all of us that have become habituated to us tend to forget this, but for most people, almost everything that happens in crypto is completely, crazily insane. They're never going to do it, right? This is what we hope will be one of the things that AI fixes, and lots of projects, billions of dollars in the last year alone, have gone into AI enablement for crypto technologies, decentralized technologies that remove barriers to entry. So essentially, agents and bots that do it all for you. You just talk to the agent, you tell it what you want, or it already knows what you want because it's looking at all of your data, and it probably at some point will make a better prediction than even you will on what you want tomorrow, and it just simply will do that for you. So if you look forward a few years, on Morpheus, which has an agent enablement economy, and the other related platforms, you'll see agent economies grow up. Those agents will be personalized to you. They'll work for you. They will know more about what you want than you know, since we already have models that predict significant amounts of human behavior better than the human brain does. And they'll make all the decisions for you. Now, that's exactly the point of what we've just talked about, though. If that agent works for Google, you're in trouble. If that agent works for you, you're great. You'll have a better life than you ever had before. So the answer is that the AI tech is going to have to evolve to the point where it's helping humans with the complexity of these systems, because you are never going to create a data management platform that human beings will use, because they cannot even understand the data that is being produced. So they do not have the fundamental bandwidth to do any of that or even comprehension of it. It's not going to happen. The agents are going to do that for you.
So to turn that into positive, so let's say that you wanted health insurance, or let's say that you want to manage your IRA, or let's say that you have a child that seems like they may have a medical problem, right? These are the perfect things to have a smart agent go and work on 24/7, with their only focus of the agent being optimizing according to your desires, the information flow, and the ability to make a decision and to recommend to you a course of action for these things which are important to you, which right now you can't sleep because you're so worried about it. You don't know if you're doing the right thing. You don't know if you're educated. You don't know if you're being a sucker, in the transaction, right? All those things you'll be able to lay off on a smart agent, which doesn't have a feeling of fear of violence against their body by the government to direct what they say. But you'll just need to be able to make sure you can trust that data, that you can trust that response. And that's really why it becomes important that it's decentralized and you own it and control it. Because otherwise you have to worry about, wait a minute, are they trying to sell me more valuable fillings for my teeth? Are they trying to sell me a more expensive replacement for my knee when I don't need it, right? Are they trying to sell me insurance I don't have any use for, right?
And worst case, if the AI decides that maybe they're not valuable for society and start to.
Well, that's already happened. They've already proven that Tesla will crash into a human, before it crashes into a car, right? And so that these machines are going to make decisions based on a different decision tree that you might want to make that you might want to make that decision.
And so there's this phrase in AI that is attention is all you need. You don't have to worry about what that means, because it's not just applicable to AI, it's applicable to humans. And so as we're building this protocol that is super nerdy, the first thing we did is actually see a guy with drip shirt there, is we actually built an application on top of drip that would help get human attention behind what we're doing. And so they provide some Discord bots and things so that when somebody posts something on Twitter, we can reward them for it. So we actually gamified the idea of, let's create a community and let's not just have them farm like shitcoins would do, but let's actually teach them about AI. Let's teach them about ethics, and let's get 1,000 people to be true believers in what we're doing. So we built an application on that, and every post we do gets 5,000 to 10,000 people watching a video or something like that. So thank you, whatever your name is. I never met you. But what we're doing at Drip is really important because it gets attention, right? The next thing that we're doing is we're actually hosting a Street Fighter tournament that we're going to announce on Thursday, and you'll kind of see it play out next week and through the end of June, where we've got all the biggest AI companies in crypto who are working together to put on a Street Fighter tournament where it's large language models playing against each other. And they're like, basically we like feed them like, hey, like Ken's over here and like he just shot a fireball at you. What do you do next, right? And the LLMs are responding in real time. And so we're using that because I know that it's going to get people's attention. Because those humans' attention is actually really important for us to be able to make the crypto side of it work. Is because if I get people to pay attention to it, then I can actually show them that, hey, we can do AI at the level of these people that you're paying $40 a month to. And now we're at a spot where everybody in crypto AI can work together to create some really cool shit. Because if we're here at Street Fighter when I only have a few $1 million to play with, just watch what happens when I get $100 million. We're gonna put on the coolest shit you've ever seen in your life. So come make it happen.
Well, speaking of cool stuff, Mike, because you teed that right up for me. You couldn't get any cooler than the front line of Player One Taco here in the house. I mean, if his lanyards don't tell you how many times he has fought for us on the front line, he has the next question.
Thank you, Julie. I'm Player One Taco, 0x Degens, but also Manifest and Lifted Initiative, all part of the Morpheus family. So not another plant, but one of the questions I did want to ask each one of you to sort of talk on, we talked the big game of like doom and gloom. What is one thing that is not your project, that has your eye that you think is awesome, and can you like throw the social out so everyone else that's watching can learn about it too?
So I'll start with this. So I just learned about this like 2 days ago, and I was thinking to myself, how did I not know that this exists and we're using it? There's a platform called Coma, which powers self-driving automobiles, where they literally send you a kit where you put together these rails that attach to into the computer in your car, and basically you put a forward-facing camera with a back-facing screen towards you, and you put it up there and you attach it to the box, the interface to your car, and basically you have a self-driving Tesla, right? And there's hundreds of thousands of these out there. There's actually maniacs driving, using the computer that they attach themselves. I'm terrified, honestly, but it's already out there. And so, I mean, everyone wants a self-driving car. How great is it to sit in your car and read the newspaper with magic? And so that's what I would think. Right?
I'm actually like, there's a group called Hyperbolic that's taking the best in class AI. It's so nerdy. It's a bunch of the nerdiest professors that are like, we're going full in on AI. And so I'm just working on getting them as many GPUs and as many customers as possible. Because if one person in AI can win that is generous and not trying to be like an evil king that hoards it all themselves, we can all win. And so I'm finding those people trying to get that. Yeah.
Sorry. So I feel like inference is a lot easier to do on a smaller scale than model building. And what are the ramifications of that, if anything, in terms of decentralized AI? Is there some way to do decentralized model building?
That came from a plan.
Yeah, so creating models is very specific. You need like hundreds of machines very close to each other. That's a far off thing. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to worry about AI inference and serving the AI models, because that's actually a thing crypto can do this year and next year. And so if we focus on that, it's going to give us the ability as technology improves to go solve those problems. But I would focus completely on inference and model ownership. And I would also say, like, watch what's happening in Morpheus, because if you're not like actually reading all the GitHub repos, there's this thing called a non-fungible agent that they're building, where it's actually the ability, like, if you think about an NFT, you owned a piece of art that was part of a community. Imagine what would happen if you could co-own like an agent that solved an actual problem in your life. And you could actually get like actual engineers to go and find the data and build the models and help you, whatever it is, like do your taxes in Omaha or whatever, right? Like think about the thinnest thing that you can do. You solve that problem and then that problem expands. I'm really interested in that because I actually think that's how this all plays out, is we build a whole bunch of agents that solve a problem I actually have that's worth $500 or $1,000 in my life. And those things end up taking over the world.
Yeah, I'm not worried about model generation either for different reasons. Um, because of the competitive landscape and how things are shaping out, you're going to get plenty of foundational models that are coming out that various organizations are willing to put in the concentrated GPU time to create. Then the open source community is going to tune those to millions of different uses. So I'm less worried about that than the inference question, simply because everyone will need to use inference thousands to millions of times a day. You will very rarely need to train a model or even know that a model was trained. That's not something anyone will see. So
That's actually one of the weak points in the current DeFi environment, is that Infura, which does the inference for essentially all the dApps, it's owned by consensus. And having that knowledge, if it was anything other than crypto and the digital world, that business would be illegal, right? Because in the securities world, which everything's a security according to the SEC, right, front running is illegal. And using other people's knowledge of their transactions against them, in a competitive way, is not necessarily kosher. And so when we get to the AI world, if I know what you're going to do before you do it, and I can make a transaction or make a bet or do some kind of activity before that transaction actually hits the blockchain, right? It's a very powerful thing.
Can I run an experiment? Who here, including the people in the back that are bored and not listening, who here actually thinks that their phone is listening to them while they're talking to serve ads?
Nobody's just saying no.
Okay, it's more than half. Okay, so I can confirm one thing for you. I worked with a bunch of people that are one of the biggest apps in the world, and from 2009 on, you know how when you rotate your phone, it actually changes like the landscape versus portrait? So that thing is called an accelerometer. And that thing is actually like sensitive enough that it can pick up sound. And so even if you didn't think that you were giving those apps the ability to listen to you, the fact that the AI that's trained on it could have access to the data from the accelerometer means that that ML model was taking in data of your voice as you were using the app and moving it side to side. And even if they didn't mean to, they actually know everything you talked about while that app was open. And it's encoded in a thing called machine learning. And so, I know this is the nerdiest shit in the world, and most people are going to experience this by, getting their first AI girlfriend, or, being recommended.
I'm on 4. They're fighting with each other now.
I can make some recommendations to be served to us because we're humans. We've got 3 basic things we do. We find food, we don't become food, and we make little versions of ourselves. So almost sure. But just know that AI is a thing that you can ignore, but you should probably view it as find food. This is going to be a way you make money. This is going to be the way that your life works. Don't become food. Literally, they're fucking coming for you. Rent's going up. If you think your landlord is charging rent, just wait until your job starts charging you for being able to provide information and make little versions of yourself. Future girlfriends are going to look different than today's girlfriends. They're going to be OnlyFans, but 1,000 times more expensive, right? That's the world we're going into. And so if you think that we're far away from that, just remember where you're at 10 years ago before AI became the way you interact with all of your social network you don't see every day, right? That is the world we're in. And so don't do the thing where people go to despair, or they say this isn't important, it'll wait for someday. It's no, this is happening right now. And this is actually, no matter what your job is, your job right now is to figure out how to use AI to do it better, and how to not sell all of your expertise to OpenAI and just train them on what you do well. Because if you ask OpenAI all the questions you need to make your job run well, OpenAI is going to take your job, just straight up. No matter what you do, especially if you're the CEO, and especially if you're the 2 or 3 rows underneath of it, you're out of a job if you train OpenAI on what you're doing.
We have time for one more question for Peter Schimmel, one of our colleagues in the.
Hey guys, I'm Peter Camille. So decentralized business models are nothing new. You know, we've heard for years that there's going to be decentralized Twitter, decentralized Uber, decentralized Airbnb, and all the advantages these have. But none of them have even gotten any kind of market traction, never mind usurp the incumbents. Why do you think it's going to be different now with AI? The decentralized AI.
So I'm not sure it's going to be different. I mean, there's a reason. The reason is that decentralization is messy and ugly, right? You know, democracy is messy and ugly, right? It just doesn't. It's much more difficult than autocracy, right? So I think that the question isn't. So history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? And so the answer is, why would it happen? It would happen because we do the same thing we've done previously, and we surrender the same rights that we've surrendered previously, right? You know, I believe that the reason we are where we are is because humanity made a decision a couple hundred years ago to trade autonomy and self-sovereignty, you know, for autocracy, for taxation, for currency, for physical boundaries, for the military. And so we surrendered rights that we had to a centralized authority to create order out of chaos. So we made that trade in a lot of ways knowledgeably and with intent, right? And then those centralized authorities, all of a sudden, they start to get self-aware. They start to realize, wow, this is cool. I'm making a lot of money, I have a lot of power. Everyone's bowing to me when I go by. You know, I'm not giving this up. This is pretty cool. But wait a minute. If those guys go away from me, if there's an alternative to me, can't let that happen. What's the first of the 10 commandments? There shall be no other God other than me. Right? And so immediately in the first commandment, commandment, it's, you know, don't listen to the other guy, just listen to me. Right? And so that's a pattern. And that's what centralized authorities try to do, because they become self-aware and they want to have the control. The technologies that we're using now, and the entrance of decentralization and distributed ledger and tokenization and all the things that we're talking about, they're basically the counterbalance. They're the other end of the pendulum swing. We realize, oh shit, we might have fucked up. We gave up too much power. We gave up too much responsibility. You know, we were too lazy because it was too good, right? And now we're at, what do we do? And we can't go to the authorities, to our government, and to our police, and to our military, and ask them to surrender, you know, so that we can be happier. They're going to laugh at us, and that's what's happening. So what we need to do now is find ways to incentivize each other to see that there's a profit, whether it's intellectual or emotional or pecuniary, to participate in these new systems where we can support each other and make decisions that are better for the crowd and better for each of us, because we have the same self-interest in these environments. Right? And so the way, you know, so why would it be bad? Because we do the same thing we did everywhere else, right? Why could it be?
Why is it going to be better in AI?
Because
Why there isn't a
I can speak to
decentralized
this.
Uber,
Yeah.
there isn't a decentralized Airbnb, there isn't a decentralized Twitter. I mean, they are, but like they have no real.
No, the hardest thing about crypto is the easy money. And we have to protect from the easy money more than anything, because the easy money makes it so that everybody wants short-term gains. And so if I tried to get somebody to come to my Web 2 startup, they would be thinking like best case scenario in like 6 to 12 years I'm seeing it. In crypto, people are like, wait, you didn't 2x my money by next month? Fuck you, right? Like that's the mindset. But it takes a while to build things. And so like the Bitcoin market cap's up there with the biggest tech companies, right? And it's been around less time than, you know, Facebook, for example, right? But it's catching up to it. It takes 5 years to build something, right? Like that's just the reality. And the people who invest in those things, like think about 5 years ago what was being built. People who actually like go in there and they say, I'm going to be the expert in the world in this. I'm going to help. I'm going to make it happen. Those people are doing great.
So you think those decentralized models will come, and it goes as well as AI. It's just going to take more time.
But the reason it's better, we have a better chance now, is because the internet and the forms of communication and the things that are already decentralized, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, like these DeFi, we have more tools to communicate with each other in a peer-to-peer fashion.
I'm saying that nobody was asked this be asked back in 2017.
Well, hold on. I don't think this is all great, but I don't think that's the primary lever. Primary lever is ease of use, guys. It's always just how easy it is for humans to adopt the thing, right? So that's what we're talking about here is there's not been a decentralized Uber because you couldn't make it easy because decentralization is hard and Uber is easy, relatively speaking. When everything is done by your AI agent, it doesn't matter how complex it is on the back end. So it's the convenience, it's the ease, your for anything, no matter what the level of complexity is, you just get the agent that works for you and it handles all the decentralization. Now, for some things that might take 6 months to develop, as Mike's saying, some things might take 5 years, some things might take 10. But the idea here is the agent levels the playing field for everything. Whether it's centralized or decentralized no longer matters. I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm using it because it's the best car service, right? And the agent's hooking me up with the car. I don't even know how I got it. Was it Uber? Was it decentralized network number 87 with a token that's trading on Coinbase somewhere? I don't even know. I don't care. That's the thing that the agent economy enables as human beings to outsource their intelligence to an agent that works for them so that they don't have to care about the level of complexity of the thing. That's why we'll get a decentralized Uber where we've never gotten one before.
But the thing is, right, and the onus is on the industry to create these objects and platforms and programs that are that entice you, that pique your interest, so that you will participate. You think it's magic, and you'll share it and make it grow. And hopefully, what's different is that the tools are better for the industry, and the industry is smarter.
It's not about better; it's about easier.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, totally. It's just easier.
You have to abstract out the technology to be a little bit easier.
No, listen, when it talks about easy, I want to remind everybody, AI cannot replace this, right? It can't replace how we met. It can't replace where we met in Denver. It can't replace how many times a week we speak on the phone. It can't replace all of our emotions that happen on a daily basis. I met Lou Kerner, the founder of Crypto Mondays, the godfather of Crypto Mondays all over. And his partners that he brought in through his journey. You're part of that journey. Logic, thank you for walking into the room. Carrie, thank you so much for being in the room. I challenge everybody here tonight, if it's not the conversation about AI and talking to our speakers that are up here that are incredibly knowledgeable about the topic, talk to the person sitting next to you and find out what their initiative is. Every single person in this room is making a change. It is up to us to find that person that's making that change and what resonates with us so we can make a better world. So I want to thank our speakers on stage. We have James Haft. We have Mike. We have Karen. Thank you so much. Please keep talking to them. We have Johnson. Thank you so much, James. Thank you.
And that is we have had a great time with Eric Ravick, Mike Anderson, and Jake Pass. And we have the rest of consensus to follow up with. And so we just want to thank everyone that has joined us today. We will see you on the flip side. And as always, a closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth, meaning if no one knows you're looking for opportunity can never come a knocking. If opportunity does come knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. With that, we end with the greatest worst knock knock joke on the face of the planet. That is always the same, but knock knock. Who's there?